And hopefully everyone can see my screen. Welcome. My name is Eric Osberg. I'm the Chief Administrative Officer at Stone Ridge and help oversee the financial aid program. My colleague Susie Kaufman-King is listed here as well. We're dealing with technical difficulties with her Zoom account, so hopefully she'll join us during this presentation. Otherwise, you'll just have me for the evening, which will work just as well also. So again, thank you for joining. My intent tonight is to give you a relatively brief overview of how financial aid works. I have a handful of slides, kind of big picture on the process and how it works here. And then we have a handful of slides showing you the application itself, which we hope was helpful. And then we'll have some time for questions. So you should be able to answer questions in the chat or the Q&A, and I'll be able to catch up on those as we get towards the end of the presentation and answer them as best we can. And we'll get out of here by 8 o'clock at the latest. So again, welcome, Eric Osberg. I've been at Stone Ridge it's my 13th year. My title is Chief Administrative Officer. I help oversee the business office and the finances here, as well as facilities and HR and some other things. I've really loved this as a community, in part because I'm a parent as well. My daughters are in the 11th and 9th grades now, having been here since lower school. And my wife also went to Stone Ridge years ago. So we know it's a wonderful community and look forward to having you as part of it as well. Susie, my partner in crime on this, helps manage the applications and answer questions. So, we're both resources for you. You see our contact information there, and it's on the website as well. So we'll explain how we work with you, but know that you can reach out to either of us kind of throughout this whole process anytime. Okay, so in terms of the big picture, financial aid is a huge program and a huge priority at Stone Ridge. Our goal really is to ensure that any child can attend Stone Ridge regardless of financial circumstances. We don't want that to be a barrier to coming to Stone Ridge. So every year when the board sets its budget, financial aid is a big topic of conversation and gets a high priority in that budgeting conversation. And the result is a pretty big program that's been growing throughout my 12 plus years here, such that now a third of our families are served by financial aid. And that spans all grade levels. Starting in pre-kindergarten is when eligibility starts, all the way through the 12th grade. So again, we really encourage everyone to apply. We want this program to work for you and be a help for you. We also intend it to be easy. So it's an online application, which again, we'll show you in a minute. FACTS is the company we use. There are a lot of acronyms out there. You'll see FAST and TADS and others at other schools. So just know that we use FACTS, and you have to apply through that. You can find that on our website. They do charge a $40 application fee. That's their business model. So you have to pay that in order for us to see your data. For those of you who are admissions applicants, which I think is the bulk of this audience, it's due January 15th. For current families, we'll ask you to get it in a little bit earlier. That's December 31. And so that would be in the future for you new families, your future date would be December 31 every year thereafter. And again, know that we're available for questions and conversation anytime. The process is also very confidential. FACTS, of course, has all of its process to secure the data and ensure that nothing can happen there. And know that our financial aid team here is very small. It's primarily Susie and myself, and we do not make, obviously application data or information or even recipients of aid, known to faculty or others around Stone Ridge. That's really private and kept within the business office. So in terms of the application, I guess a few key things. Obviously, one has to apply, and so you become the applicant. And then there's a co-applicant in some cases, which is the other parent. We do ask both parents to apply, regardless of marital status. And if that is a complicating factor in your case, you can always reach out to us on the side and we can talk about that. We certainly see all varieties of situations and we can work through that. So you create your application, and it's going to ask you about income, all your sources of income, whether or not that's W-2s or 1099s or other sources like child support, et cetera. It's going to ask you about your assets, so things you own, your cash, savings, what you have in your checking account or investments, all of that. It'll ask you about liabilities, so any debt that you have, your mortgage or credit card debt, things like that. And then it's going to ask about expenses. And so this is where our application is a little bit different than some other schools because we're really trying to get a really full, well-rounded picture of your financial circumstances. So you'll enter information about what you pay every month or every year on your mortgage and car payments and a variety of things. It's not too laborious, and you just make your best estimates if you don't know the exact number. And then there are other expenses you don't have to enter, such as what's listed there, food, utilities, etc. They have some cost of living estimates based on household size for our area, and Facts kind of behind the scenes has some estimates for that already in the system. And then we know that everyone's situation is unique. So to the extent that the questions asked to the application don't, you think, answer everything about your circumstances, you can provide more information. So for example, there's a space where you can tell us that in 2023, your income is going to change. And you can elaborate on that there. Also near the end of the application, there's a question that's an open-ended one, just asking if there's anything else that we should know. Many people leave that blank, which is fine. Some people put a sentence or two to call something to our attention. Others maybe write something longer to explain something very unusual that's happened or that they expect to be happening over the coming year. And that's fine. We read all of that and we welcome it. And then lastly, if you need or want to, you're welcome to write to us directly so that we have some extra information for your file. And obviously, we'll keep that secure. So at the end of this, obviously, we get a very complete picture of your financial circumstances, so we can really understand what your need might be. This is a screenshot of part of the application. So you have these check boxes down the left as you go through section by section. And this is number 12 there, that additional questions where you can provide additional information that I was just referring to. So hopefully that'll be self-explanatory. So a key point to know also is that you'll have to upload some documents to Facts. And we're trying to verify income through this. And what we ultimately want are both a recent set of tax returns and income documents for 2022. So in terms of tax returns, as you do this application over the coming months, go ahead and with the application, just upload your 2021 tax returns if you had those done. Just if you have a PDF of those, you could upload them right in the application. And then next spring, when your 2022 taxes are done, you can load them at that time. But know that in almost all cases, we don't need to wait for that, of course. And then also we want your 2022 income documents. So generally those are your W-2s or sometimes 1099s. So those will typically arrive for you in late January. So you'll complete the application when you can by January 15th, and you can go back in later and then upload those at that time. If you have an unusual situation with your income documents, again, just let us know. You can note that in the application itself, or you can email Susie or me and just explain, I don't get a W-2 because of X, Y, and Z, and we'll work with it. And at the bottom here, I know you'll get many reminder emails. Facts has automated ones that'll explain what documents are missing. Obviously, try and pay your best attention to those. And then Susie and I will send out reminders as well. We'll start off with some mass reminders about, sort of BCC to everyone about, documents that are still due. And then as we get deeper into it, we'll reach out more one-on-one, to talk about your situation in particular. So once that application is submitted, it becomes available to Stone Ridge. You want to make sure that you check Stone Ridge as the school you're applying to. That's, I think, self-explanatory at the front of the application. But that then enables us to see it. Know that kind of behind the scenes, what Facts is doing is calculating sort of a suggested award for Stone Ridge to see that has a calculated need formula that fundamentally is looking at your family income, kind of a tiny, tiny portion of savings, and then subtracting out expenses and trying to understand, what income do you have available to pay for tuition? And, to the extent that that is less than what the tuition is at Stone Ridge, it'll suggest a financial aid award to bridge that gap. So Stone Ridge sees that, and it's obviously important to our process. But it's only a guideline. We're not formulaic about this. We want to really understand every family situation and not just go rigidly by what Facts does behind the scenes. So we have a financial aid committee. We meet, we review the applications together. It's a very small committee. We're starting with that Facts calculated need, but we have other information we're looking at as well. For returning families, we want to see what last year's award was. to understand, are the situations similar or different, last year to this year, and think about that carefully. In the application, it will ask you what you believe you can afford to pay for tuition. So we're looking at that field, and does it match up with what the rest of the application suggests you might be able to pay? Maybe we'll probe deeper there to better understand, have a conversation with you about it. So please, take that field seriously as you complete the application. Again, any additional information you submit, we'll read and we'll take into account. And then lastly, of course, the number of applications we get every year, it grows year to year, but it also varies. So we have to make sure that all, the total dollar amount awards that we're allocating really add up within our overall budget. So that's part of our process on our side as well. And then just some other things to be aware of. So in terms of timing, again, you'll apply by the middle of January, upload those documents late January, and that really enables us kind of February 1st to roll up our sleeves and spend really all of February going through all these applications and issuing awards. We'll do some for current families first because they'll have a re-enrollment deadline that's earlier than admissions families deadlines to come to Stone Ridge. So we'll work on them, but then in parallel, of course, be working on applications for you all so that we can issue them by your own admissions deadline. So typically that's the beginning or middle of March when you're asked to say if you're coming to Stone Ridge. So we'll issue those awards kind of at that time. All right, so I'm hearing that the chat is disabled for you all, but the Q&A, it looks like that does work. So if you're able to enter questions in the Q&A part throughout, looks like I can see that. So please use that. If you did something in the chat, please go ahead and put it in the Q&A. So a couple other points. You might hear about the Stone Ridge Scholar Merit Award Program. We do have a program in the upper school where students can receive $5,000 a year or $20,000 in total throughout their 4 years of upper school, which is totally separate from this process we're talking about tonight. There's no application for that. Your admissions application to Stone Ridge is what is the application for that. And a committee that's within the admissions process reviews all those applications and determines who both from the Stone Ridge 8th grade class and incoming 9th graders from other schools will qualify for those awards. And you are notified of those at the admissions timeline as well. Any award that you receive, whether it's one of those or the need-based program we're talking about, is automatically applied to your student billing account. So you don't have to worry about doing anything special there. It is, simply a reduction in the tuition amount. As I alluded to earlier, it is an annual process. So you would be applying again next winter for the following year and thereafter. We do understand that families come to Stone Ridge not just for 1 year, but for 4 years or sometimes for 13 years. And so we don't want that process to feel, arbitrary or like you don't know what your awards will be from year to year. So do know that, we really try not to change awards much from year to year unless the financial circumstances have changed. All right, and last point here, a little bit cut off on the screen there perhaps, but once you are enrolled, we also try and make paying tuition easy. So we do have an option to pay in full over the summer, which some families choose, but very popular are our payment plan options, which are a semi-annual one, 2 payments, or a monthly payment plan over 10 months, paying 10% per month. And that is all part of the enrollment agreement you'll see, once you're admitted and making your enrollment elections. All right, so here we're going to show you the application itself a little bit, which I think is reasonably self-explanatory. We wanted to give you a sense of it so it's not too much of a black box for you. So you get to it from our website. So if you go to the admissions tab on our website, there's a tuition and affordability section under that drop down there. And if you scroll down on that tuition page, you'll then see this, this header that's circled here, financial aid for prospective new students. Please read all that in there. It has a lot of what I'm just explaining right now, but click that apply online button. And it will take you out to, this is a fax webpage, but that's tailored to Stone Ridge. So it should look like this, and you'll see that box to create a username and password. You'll go in, you'll see something that looks like this to start the application. And then they actually have about a 2.5-minute video. I'm not going to play it for you here, but I've been told it's pretty useful. If you watch it, it'll give you a sense of how the application works and try and answer some of your questions there. And then this is the application itself. So again, you have these check boxes down the left that show your progress, and you'll enter in, your demographic information, and all the things I was describing in terms of income, expenses, etc. So this is basically the last screen on that submit page. And I think the thing that's important to know here, again, they charge you $40 for the application. You do need to submit that $40 in order for Stone Ridge to see the application. And also you do this before you upload the W-2s or tax returns I was referring to earlier. So you do this step, and then it'll look like this. It'll show your application is incomplete. Don't be alarmed by that. That just means your tax returns and documents aren't in there yet. But we can, at that point, start to see it at Stone Ridge. And again, that will trigger the reminders and all those sorts of things. So it'll list the documents there with these little circles to kind of indicate if they're done or not done. And hopefully that makes sense. And again, this is kind of what it looks like as you start to check off that documents are in there or not in there. And there's a little, green upload button on the bottom right there. Hopefully all is pretty self-explanatory. Fax does have really good customer service. You can find that phone number on the website there. So, Susie and I are obviously great about explaining how the Stone Ridge process works. And Susie is pretty good at explaining some of the nuances of the fax application. But if you really have a technical problem with the application's not working, it's probably fax that might have to help fix that for you. All right, and so then within the documents page, we've highlighted here this view all button you can click on, which then pulls up a screen like this, where you can see kind of all kinds of document options. Part of the point here really is that, you'll select one of these document names next to a document that you upload just to kind of give it a label within the system. But there is this other option at the bottom where if you don't see your document listed there, you can check it. Or if you're submitting a second tax return or a second page of a tax return and it won't let you choose that again, just click the other button. At the end of the day, we, Stone Ridge, see all these documents all in a nice list, regardless of what you've checked here. And we can open them all up and see what they are. So you don't need to lose too much sleep over this part of the process. All right, and then, so that's the end of the application view. This is actually my last slide. I wanted to let you know that what you're applying for in this process is financial aid towards tuition. So you'll receive X dollars in aid, and that will be applied to your tuition bill. But we recognize and appreciate that other costs come up throughout the Stone Ridge experience. And we do offer some financial aid support for the things that are listed here. And there's nothing extra you need to do. There's no separate application. In most cases, the way it works is the percentage discount you get off tuition is automatically applied to these costs. That's generally true. There are a few exceptions. With the Très Bien Ball, we're giving out a couple of free tickets instead of doing the discount. But fundamentally for bus, for our summer programs, for the international trip programs, for these athletic fees listed here, you get that percentage discount. And we do that automatically in the business office, again, so that people around the school aren't privy to who is participating in the financial aid program and who's not. All right, so I do see some questions are coming into the Q&A, so feel free to submit some more. Can we get a recording of this webinar? Yes, we'll figure out where we're going to post that or how we'll distribute it, but that's why we're recording it, so we can make that available for folks. Is the financial aid process separate from the admissions process? Great question. Yes, they are independent. So make sure you're talking to Loretta Gordon and her team about what they need on the admissions side, the grades and transcripts and all of that. And they will let you know what their deadlines and timelines are. But also know that they're not involved in this decision process. So as the admissions committee meets, they do not have information on financial aid applications and whatnot. So they're making their admissions decisions need blind, without being involved in this process. And we think that's really important. All right, there's a question about, is there any income limit in terms of applying for financial aid? No. It's a great question. We see all kinds of circumstances, and you saw from my explanation that we look at more than just income. It's expenses, it's debts and savings and all of that. So there's no absolute line above which one should not apply. I think the spirit of it is if you feel based on your financial circumstances that you really can't quite afford the tuition, then you should consider applying. You're also just welcome to talk to me. I can have a conversation with you about whether or not your financial circumstances, as you described them to me, seem in line with typical applications. But it is a broad program. It serves a wide range of family situations. Certainly, we have 2-income households that are applying, and we recognize that DC is an expensive area to live. So all that's very, very common. All right, let's see here. Are there additional fees if paying monthly or discounts for paying in full? So there's a small, $25 or $40 fee to sign up for the monthly and semi-annual plans, but that's just a one-time fee, so there's not a significant difference, which is why most people choose to do that, those payment plans. Question is, my child is applying to another school that uses TADS. Will Stone Ridge get the TADS application if they list Stone Ridge? No, we don't participate in TADS, so there's not really a way to list Stone Ridge in there. You have to apply through fax for Stone Ridge to get your information. But someone else's question, you can use the same fax application for multiple schools. So I think you can just go in there and check multiple schools, and that will then get that information to the different schools. Now, some schools might have custom questions you have to answer, but I think that will all be self-explanatory in there. Let's see here. Okay, just to clarify, if awarded financial aid, is that for all 4 years? So no, the Merit Award program, that's awarded one time at the beginning of 9th grade. That's that $5,000 a year that is given out to a small number of students. But this large need-based program we're talking about, you reapply each year. So it's an annual process. But again, we really are trying not to make changes on families from year to year unless someone's financial circumstances change a lot. So you will reapply each year. It's the same process. And once you've done it once, it's certainly pretty easy thereafter. There's a question about if Stone Ridge has a sibling discount. We do not have a sibling discount. I know some schools do, but the trend among independent schools has been to go away from that and to use the financial aid application for that purpose. So it will ask, about your children. It'll ask about tuition costs for those children, whether or not that's at Stone Ridge or other schools. So that becomes part of the process, and we can take that into account in issuing, that award or multiple awards if you have multiple children applying. There's a question about other merit scholarships at Stone Ridge. We do not have merit scholarships for the lower and middle schools. It's just the one program that for incoming 9th graders. All right, I think I've actually answered all the questions that are in the Q&A here. I'm just looking over it again to see if I missed any, but keep them coming if you have more. Yes, can we provide our emails? Yes, let me go back to the first slide where you can see that. So our emails are right there. Let's see, a couple more questions coming in. There's a question about other upper school scholarships available for students interested in arts or theater or perhaps any other areas. No, we just have the one scholars program that looks at a child's overall academic record from middle school. So we do not have programs just specific to certain areas. If the fax application was already submitted, can we email or contact you separately with a change in salary, or will we have to send that to fax? You can send that to us directly. I mean, it's often cleanest to put that in fax, but at the end of the day, it ultimately doesn't matter if you reach out directly to me or to Susie, we're able to note that in the application just as easily. So that's not a problem. We have lots of conversations with family where they give us information and conversation they want us to know, and we'll note those things, in our files so that we have them. Let's see, for the other programs on the last slide that I listed, the non-tuition items, are they subtracted from the annual amounts or in addition to? Right, so I'll go back to that slide here. Right, so Stone Ridge has its tuition cost, but there are other optional things one can sign up for that have additional costs beyond tuition. So the bus transportation, we have a free shuttle to the metro down the road, but for families that live in Virginia or further away, we have about a half dozen bus routes that people sign up for. So that's an additional cost. But again, if you say you received half off of your tuition bill, we would give you half off of that bus transportation bill. And that's similar for the rest of these programs that are additional, optional costs at Stone Ridge. All right, the questions are slowing down. I have no more new ones. So if anyone wants to throw a question in there, I'm glad to answer them. Otherwise, we'll sign off here in just a second. But yeah, hopefully the spirit of this for you all is that this is relatively easy and self-explanatory, and that, again, Susie and I are here to make it even easier if you run into any roadblocks. So please know you can email us, you can call us. We're glad to talk to you. We're glad to lend a hand any way that we can. And we look forward to seeing you on paper in the application, but certainly to speaking with you and ultimately to meeting you and your daughters when you get here to Stone Ridge. So with that, I will sign off. Thank you all for joining and hope you have a wonderful evening.